G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Daylight saving time on the 3rd of October 2017. So I've had roughly around about 22 hours, maybe 21 hours of listening to the media build-up over the Las Vegas massacre. Yesterday afternoon, this time of day, I was at my mother's place, splitting a bit of firewood, carrying it for her in the rain. Wasn't feeling too good. I had the flu, you know. After that, I went and visited my daughter. Had a bit of a chat with her, and I came home, turned the radio on. As I was leaving my daughter's place, sundown in the rain, there were stories that there'd been a public shooting in Las Vegas, and they said 2 people were known to be dead, and maybe as many as 20 injured. But it was all ongoing. And then 10 or 15 minutes later, the story was that there were multiple shooters and there were explosions in several different hotels, and there were ear witness accounts from people who were saying they wanted to know who was attacking them like this. And the whole thing sounded like it was some kind of a coordinated terrorist attack by a bunch of people who really didn't like the excited states of Norte Armed Americano. And then it sort of calmed down a little bit after a while, because they announced within an hour that, yeah, well, there was only one gunman, and the gunman is dead. Trouble is, at that point, there was already 20 people dead, just like the gunman, and they said there was maybe a couple of hundred people injured. And that sort of stayed the state of the story until I went to bed. But I woke up this morning and it was 58 people dead and 500 injured, then 515, and now it's 59 dead and 527 injured. So Mr. Paddock, the 64-year-old cleanskin, never had a criminal conviction. His father went to jail, though, for some pretty bad shit. Never had a criminal conviction in his life. Cleanskin, 64-year-old retired accountant, bean counter from Florida, who retired to live at Las Vegas because he loved gambling. His girlfriend was an Australian lady who spent 10 years working in the gambling, air quotes, industry on the Gold Coast in Queensland in Australia. She's apparently flying back from Tokyo. It was initially reported that she was a person of interest, apparentarily because her name, her identification, was used to rent the hotel room. But she was out of the country at the time, so this is speculation and conjecture. But perhaps she helped him spend most of his life savings and then pissed off and left him to fester. As I said, this is conjecture. But it rhymes, so it may not be wrong. So yeah, anyway, this bloke, he killed himself before they blew the door off his hotel room. But he was found in there. He had 19 rifles, semi-automatic rifles, modified to fire full automatic. Let's just assume that he had 3 30-round magazines for each one, sticky tape back to back. He had 2 tripods, one in front of each one of the windows. He'd used a hammer he brought along to break the windows with, so that he could have a rifle with 3 magazines, you know, like 90 rounds, full automatic, on a tripod, shooting down from 32 floors, 300 yards across, you know, maybe 350, 400 yards ballistic flight time. And he was firing into 22,000 people. And he kept on going. Fire 3 magazines, move across the room, fire another 3 magazines, and he had the rifle stacked up. Somebody sold that bastard at least 19 fully automatic rifles, or at least semi-automatics that were modified to fire fully automatics. One of the very earliest pieces of phone camera footage to come out of there had somebody saying, and I'm quoting, air quotes, "Someone has opened up with an M16 firing into the concert." Okay, now here in Australia, you'd take that with a grain of salt, because how many people in Australia can tell you off the bat whether they're being shot at by an M16 or an AK-47 or an Uzi or an M60 or a World War II British Sten gun or a World War I German Maxim? I'd wager not too many. But in the excited states, they have such a large military. They have such a large National Guard. They have such a large gun-aware population that, yeah, the average American crowd will have somebody who knows what they're being shot at with. And they can identify it from the particular harmonics of the muzzle blast and the mechanical noises of the gun in operation. So let's just say 19 M16s with 30-round magazines set up to fire fully automatic with a tripod. And guess what they found at his house? Another 18 firearms, rifles and pistols, thousands of rounds of ammunition, explosives and explosive precursors. And this was a 64-year-old clean-skinned white American male. So even though ISIL is claiming that it was one of their people responding to their calls for attacks, it really sounds like it's a temper tantrumist. Maybe, perhaps, possibly, I'm drawing a long bow here, but I think somebody got the shits when his girlfriend pissed off and left him. I don't know how long she left him, but she was obviously halfway around the world when he went and did all this shit. I cannot get myself to believe that he attacked a music festival because he didn't like country and western music, but it's possible. I don't believe he was a Muslim extremist. I have seen one half-wit, name of The Quant, YouTube channel Kentica, who suggested that you can't believe the police in their story that it was a single solo shooter because the initial report said that there was 3 of them and explosions and shit. But no, I think this really was one individual dedicated temper tantrumist who really, really, really wanted to have themselves a Gotterdammerung moment. I heard somebody on the radio 15 minutes ago, before I started making this video. They pointed out that all of the mass casualty shootings in the excited states and pretty much everywhere else since 1965, it's been people walking up in crowded places at ground level and shooting other people horizontally. This is the first time since Walt Whitman in 1965 when an American citizen has taken a high ground position of advantage and fired down onto a whole bunch of innocent victims. And here's the thing. Walt Whitman was later found to have been suffering from a pathological brain tumour. He was later discovered to have been to several medical practitioners complaining of the headaches and the crazy ideas and wanting somebody to help him with what the hell was going on inside of his mind. And nobody gave him any fucking help. So he went and he bought himself a rifle and he got himself up on top of a water tower and he fired down and he killed people until somebody shot him dead. This is the first time since 1965. Since an American mass casualty gun event has occurred where somebody has climbed up into an elevated position and fired down. It would be really, really, really interesting if somebody could do an autopsy on whatever the hell is left of Mr. Shepard and see what's inside his brain. Because maybe, perhaps, possibly, wouldn't it be nice to think that this is not an example of American culture gone wild? Maybe it's just another fucking brain tumour on legs with access to guns because of the Second Amendment. Just think about that. If you've lived a blameless life in the excited states and you suddenly get struck down with a brain tumour, the system will allow you to buy, technically, legally, you can buy registered transferable machine guns. But they're really expensive because there haven't been any new ones added to the list since 1968. And every time you buy one, there's $9,000 worth of tax stamps. So I've seen stories on YouTube, you know, like Rock Island Auction House sells machine guns. People pay $2,000 for a machine gun plus $9,000 for the tax stamps. Other people pay $26,000 for a machine gun. This prick had 19 fucking machine guns. I'm suspecting he may have had some illegal machine guns rather than some legal machine guns. But, you know, who would suggest that an accountant knows where to get illegal merchandise? So anyway, these are the questions raised by the latest American mass casualty event, where the citizenry shoots the shit out of the citizenry on a whim, indulging themselves in a temper tantrumic moment. And already, in the excited states, Hillary Clinton has been called a political opportunist for daring to suggest that the Republicans are trying to legalise the personal ownership of silencers, and the only reason people knew that they should start trying to run away from this arsehole was because they could hear the noise of the gunfire. The National Rifle Association is officially being silent, but my information is that they are planning a rally in Las Vegas as we speak. Meanwhile, the man who was Australia's Deputy Prime Minister under John Howard when Australia suffered its last great mass casualty event and semi-automatics were declared illegal and there was an amnesty, he suggested that there should be a travel warning in all civilised countries of the world, warning their citizens not to visit the excited states of Norte Americano, particularly not the Midwest and Western states, where there are open carry laws permitting people to have assault weapons without let or hinder, as long as they've never been known to do anything bad before. So we're getting to the stage where the rest of the world is fucking sick of the way the Americans carry on and behave among themselves and how they like to shoot up the fucking landscape and kill the citizenry, poking holes in, 500-600 of each other on a single bloody interlude. We're going to start advising our citizenry not to visit the excited states of Norte Americano, because we're all too fucking sane to want anybody to go there and get turned into compost. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Yes, I'm fucking sick of it. Therefore, I'm having a rant. A drunken rant, because the fucking Americans deserve it. Ciao.